But when they've experimented with image creation, they get some wild hallucinations, as it's called in the AI world. AI is great at summarizing and aggregating, and it's not great at innovating. It doesn't have imagination. It can be very non-inclusive. It could be not representative if we're talking about imagery, like photographic imagery or even kind of enhanced avatar type, picturing human beings, picturing, let's say, a customer set for a company. It could just not include the people who look like the customers actually look. It could be age inappropriate, it could be too narrow. It can be wrong setting, wrong, too edgy, wrong graphic tone. Or you get somebody who's got a third arm. Yeah, there's inclusivity and there's accessibility, right? We also need to design and code email. We're talking a lot about content. So with the right guardrails, with the right, I think, ethical guidelines, and with settings that a brand can control, I think we can get there. But we still need the human oversight. We are not ready. It's the Wild West. We are not ready to give up human input, but especially human oversight.
Welcome to Email After Hours by Senderscore, powered by Validity.
We're your hosts. My name is Guy Hansen.
And I'm Danielle Gallant, and this is Email After Hours. Listeners, if your LinkedIn feeds have been screaming, AI is the future, in all caps, lately or for a while, don't worry. You're not alone. Today, we're jumping back into a hugely popular topic, and that is how AI is transforming email marketing.
Karen Talavera, an award-winning email marketing expert and a true leader in the space. Karen's work spans over 2 decades with her strategic insights helping everyone, from big-name brands like Google and Disney to email businesses across the board, refining their email marketing strategies. And she's here to share her take on how AI is reshaping email marketing and where human creativity still reigns supreme. Karen, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you with us again today.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy and Danielle. I'm excited to be back. Love this podcast.
And we're going to kick off with an AI icebreaker, of course. So Karen, tell us, if AI could take over one part of your daily routine, what would it be? And also, what would you definitely not want AI to handle for you?
Can it go to the gym for me yet?
Good.
Oh, so good.
I mean, in jest, yeah. But in reality, if it could take over one part, all my admin tasks, it's getting there. I haven't really experimented probably as much as I should have, but it could, pay all the bills, make appointments, call when, something needs to be fixed. And then what would I not have it do? What would I not have it do? I would definitely not have it like message for me or handle communication with real people in my life. Even though I can see a place for, because we're going to talk about email, so we're going to talk about marketing automation. Wouldn't it be cool to sort of have automated check-in messages going to certain friends you don't want to lose touch with, right? But beyond that, no, to have it actually speak for me in any way that's conversational, that's intimate, that's personal, that'd be a no.
I'm with you. So, speaking as one human being to another, let's start with the big picture, Karen.
Which we still are.
I think
no avatars here, right? No virtual, no.
So, per our intro, AI is everywhere these days, and it just seems like every conversation in email marketing circles around this topic. So, from your perspective, again, so the top level view, how is AI changing the game for email marketers? Where is it making our jobs easier? Where is it maybe still falling short? And are there some tasks that you feel it's handling better than others in the world of email marketing?
It's a hot topic for sure. It's on the minds of all email marketers. I just came back a couple weeks ago from an event on this very topic in Newport Beach, California. So we talked about a lot of the pros and cons. On the upside, email marketers, I feel like one of the things we've struggled with is creating content, putting together, the guts of an email. So, yeah, I can expound on strategy. That's what I do. That's what I know and love. Coming up with the ideas and the campaigns and the tactics that we're going to use is job one, but then somebody has to create all this. So, now with AI, we're using Claude or ChatGPT or other tools to help us with copywriting, to hone our tone, to get into more direct response and some of the like psychology of what motivates people in good copy. And some marketers are experimenting with using it for image creation, although that's a double-edged sword and a caution area for sure. So, pros, cons. On the con side, I don't think AI is ready for prime time when it comes to, from a generative standpoint, actually creating imagery, pictures, designs, templates, layouts. But given the right inputs, it can put those pieces together. And I'll get more into what I mean by that because there's a company that's gone there and so far getting some really good results with marketers. So
Super interesting.
yeah, I mean, on the content side is kinda top of mind for people, how do I write my email? How do I find the assets to put in it? But then beyond that, there's the data side. And, so AI for email, well, how can it better analyze data sets, right? We've already had this in a lot of our email and marketing automation software platforms and leading vendors in the space where they can do predictive analytics. We've been talking about machine learning and predictive analytics and like it kind of heard AI 5 years ago, but now all of a sudden all these other terms seem to have faded, into the background. And we're really talking about agents that can, take previous results from campaigns from a customer data set and recommend what to do next and start to actually build it operationally or start to predict, where the juice is going to be worth the squeeze, right? Where we're going to get that payoff.
And let's build on that a little bit because I feel like let's talk about tools for a moment. It's starting to feel like email marketers are spoiled for choice almost now when it comes to the potential tools that they could use, the AI powered tools that they could integrate into their platforms. So, kind of a two-part question for you here. Which of those AI powered tools or platforms have you found most useful when it comes to email marketing? And then how should marketers start to evaluate which tools are right for their business? Like, what should they be looking for?
They should be looking for two things, alleviation of pain. And again, a lot of that content generation and the time it takes to, build email and actually get it set up is a big pain. And they should be looking for gains. So savings in time, savings in cost. But yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and name drop because there's some tools that have started out, calling themselves like predictive analytic optimization tools, and now they're AI driven, even if they always were all along. And there's some newer ones. So we've had the language optimization tools like Persado, been around for a decade. The former Phrasey, for anybody who that name might ring a bell for, now gone through an acquisition and under the name Jacquard. So when we need good language optimization for subject lines, for headlines, for subheadlines in email, or even for web pages and other digital assets, those are great. And try before you buy. Experiment with them, see if you get the gains in key metrics and open and click and possibly even conversion from using those. But then taking it a step further, right? Beyond just optimization of language, but how do we save time building the email? In the last, I don't know, I'm going to say as far as a decade, I've seen some of the agencies in the space start to offshore and outsource some of that creative and production work to maybe it's, India or the Philippines or more affordable economies and kind of Western world. I think AI is going to take a lot of those jobs. Now, we still need human oversight, but, there's a company that was started by one of the guys who was a creative leader in email marketing. The company is called Denada, Denada. And with the, again, appropriate guardrails and inputs, brands can use that platform to actually input all of their a graphic standard, brand approved assets, logos, images, copy blocks, template designs, video, the list goes on. And then actually just talk to Donata and say, build me an email message that, offers my customers a 48-hour flash sale and, position it to this audience profile and use an image of, whatever it is, a family on a beach and just descriptively give inputs to create massive shortcuts. So, with that, you take away maybe complex creative briefs, right? You take away all this human collaboration that could take time where you're trying to translate a concept strategically from a program manager to a designer or a copywriter. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. The AI tool does what you tell it to do every time. And you could keep iterating and refining on that. I think that's something like that. And they're probably going to have competition or the platforms are going to build that in. That's going to be a game changer.
For sure. Now, you've already touched several times on content creation, and I think that's an interesting topic for us. We released the new Litmus State of Email report a couple of months ago, and our responders said the single biggest use case for AI is content generation. So, firstly, do you think that customers, email subscribers, should know the content and images they're viewing was generated by AI? So, should marketers be transparent in communicating the use of AI to those customers? Or are we maybe just overthinking disclosure and maybe it's a case of do the customers even care?
I think we need to disclose, but before we think about disclosure, we need to think about acceptable business practices policy, right, within an organization. So what I heard straight out of the mouths of brands a couple weeks ago at this event that I was at is they're using generative tools, and again, mostly for copy and for language optimization and for assistance with copywriting, because nobody wants to start with a blank slate. They're using it more behind the scenes, never for final product, right? Never for final draft. So there's still so much human oversight that I think if that's the case, if it's this blended approach, if we're using it kind of as a crutch to get started, we don't need the disclosure. Now, if there are images creative, or if we're talking graphics, then I think yes. But many companies, I'm going to say 95%, don't want to go there. They won't use them when they've experimented with, and I'm trying to think of a couple of the platforms that are out there. It'll come to me. But when they've experimented with image creation, they get some wild hallucinations, as it's called in the AI world, and again, the AI is great at summarizing and aggregating, and it's not great at innovating. It doesn't have imagination. So it could take a whole bunch of existing images or ideas that are out there and create some kind of crazy mashup that technically following the prompt, and doing what you told it to do, but there just isn't, the raw material available to produce a good outcome because it can't imagine something that hasn't really already been created in some fashion.
And when it does, it's super funky sometimes, as I think.
Or, a couple other things. It can be very non-inclusive. It could be not representative if we're talking about imagery, like photographic imagery or even kind of enhanced avatar type, picturing human beings, picturing, let's say, a customer set for a company. It could just not include the people who look like the customers actually look. It could be age inappropriate, it could be too narrow. It can be wrong setting, wrong, too edgy, wrong graphic tone. Or you get somebody who's got a third arm.
Honestly, Karen, you have preempted my next question perfectly because we've been talking a lot about accessibility recently, especially with the enforcement of the European Accessibility Act, which is now a reality. And my question was going to be, how can email marketers be certain that AI-generated content or images are inclusive? But maybe it's can marketers be sure at all that this content is inclusive?
Well, yeah, there's inclusivity and there's accessibility, right? Because we also need to design and code email. We're talking a lot about content. So it renders appropriately on receiving environments, and there's a million of those. And it's ADA compliant, as we call, in the US for people with disabilities. So depending on the AI tool, and again, I don't think they're there yet, you could give it the prompt, make this, code this. I mean, gosh, you can create a website with AI. So yes, of course, you could certainly create an email. But that's why I think tools like Donata are going to be valuable because they're set up, they're designed to create email, not just to create anything. They're not just generative, general tools like the ones we know and love, the ChatGPT and Claude and so forth. So with the right guardrails, with the right, I think, ethical guidelines, and with settings that a brand can control, I think we can get there. But we still need the human oversight. We are not ready. It's the Wild West. We are not ready to give up human input, but especially human oversight.
Yeah, and I feel like backlash, like risk for backlash could be intense. But I'd like it to get into maybe some practical examples. Do you have any examples of really awesome outcomes that you've seen from using AI in email, whether it's personalization or timing or content creation?
On the data side, so there's also a company that's been around for over a decade in email marketing world that's now evolved beyond their initial offering. They're called Audience Point. Again, they might be familiar. They pioneered send time optimization, which again was looking at large data sets for like all of the Audience Point customers that could anonymously and safely share response data from their subscribers. And Audience Point I'll just pick a name out of a hat. Let's say, Delta Airlines. I'm not saying they were a customer, but just hypothetically, if they were trying to do time optimization, they give a company like Audience Point all of the previous open and click history from their subscribers. Audience Point would crunch it and say, okay, now when you send the next campaign, you're going to send it to Guy 3 p.m. You're going to send it to Danielle at 10 a.m. Karen's going to get it at 1:30 p.m. because according to what the algorithm says, that's when those subscribers are most likely be in their inbox active. They're going to open. They're going to click. Now, Audience Point is able to look at an even bigger first-party data set and make predictions and understand when a customer, like when a brand's subscribers are not only interacting with their own email, but are in the inbox and active with other brands' email. So this isn't to say Delta's going to be able to find out when United subscribers are opening email, but they are going to be able to see, hey, I'm sending email to my subscribers. I'm seeing a certain segment that is disengaged or declining in engagement with my own Delta emails, but they're very active with other email. They're still active in the channel. They're still engaged with the channel. How do I breathe new life into them? How do I re-engage them? Or what am I doing, that could be improved? Do I send at a different time? Is it a quantity issue? Is it a frequency and cadence issue? There's so many ways to analyze those kind of results. But companies that are using that engagement score, and inbox sort of, view to the inbox for the competition are starting to see gains in terms of maybe quality over quantity sending and re-engagement strategies. So, and I know, there's going to be competition in that field, and there already is. And certainly Validity has played in that space for a long time.
Love those examples that you've given us. I feel that they also lead us to the next big question, because you touched on data. And I think, as we understand, a lot of that data, customers' data is personal data, first party, zero party. And perhaps there's an ethical consideration here too, because I think in most instances, those customers will be asked to provide consent to process their personal data. But do we think that we're getting to a point where they need to be asked for specific consent for their data to be processed by AI?
That's a really rich question. If we're talking about consumers who are receiving email, I think they know a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes. I'm sure they don't know what they don't know, and that's a long-winded way of saying there's a lot of complexity to the world of email marketing that the average consumer, the recipient who gets a message in their inbox doesn't understand, goes into putting that campaign out the door. I think they're aware, though, that their data, if they provided it to a brand that they're buying from and transacting with, that they know it's gonna be used. There's already been disclosures. Now, if it's gonna be shared with third parties, if it's gonna be anonymized, there needs to be consent, and there often usually is. Is there gonna be a difference between that data being used specifically by an AI tool and legacy tools? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that changes the game as much as the fact that, we might be able to get even more signals in the future and more data that we haven't had before. Maybe that's the question.
It's a great point, and I mean I've thought about it too. And maybe the difference is that at the moment, consent is being provided with a fairly clear guideline in terms of how that personal data is going to be promoted. I think the game changer with AI is that we possibly don't even know how AI is going to process it. It might come up with a completely new way of processing it. So I guess there's that as well. I know another thing that's front of mind with you when it comes to the AI conversation is the risk or the potential for bias that's created by the way that it has been sourced. And have you personally had to consider the risk of bias or fairness in any of your AI generated content or targeting?
I have not personally had to. I use AI only for content generation for my own business. So, yes, I'll use it. I'll actually dialogue, with a lot of the chat tools, to ideate, but then also to refine. So if I'm writing a blog post or, items for social media, I'll use it. But I'm thinking in terms of clients. And again, my clients and your clients are some of the biggest brands out there that have email and customer lists into the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions. They've always had pretty stringent legal oversight of their marketing programs and legal approval. And again, brand guidelines, graphic guidelines. So, can AI go outside the guardrails? Or who's going to, what's the oversight the company has in place to make sure it doesn't, and that people understand what the guardrails are? But yeah, back to your question, as far as backlash and legal backlash, if we take away the human oversight and approvals at the end of putting together advertising and marketing campaigns, if we bypass any of that, we're going to have problems. That's where we open the risk door.
And who would we blame when something bad happens? What are we to do? Blame the tool? Blame the robot?
Oh, gee, let me guess the answer to that. No, that's going to be back to the marketing team, the email team.
We can't let this episode go by without talking about deliverability just a little bit, because that's our bread and butter. I think the short version of this question is, are Guy and I going to be out of a job? But the long version is, do you think that AI can truly help solve some long-term chronic deliverability challenges like spam folder placement or sender reputation?
Wow. I've thought about that with deliverability. I don't know if AI is going to solve it. There are still some pretty powerful gatekeepers out there, Google and major, yeah, Microsoft, Google, Yahoo's still there, major consumer inbox providers, the Xfinities of the world, what have you, that make determinations. Now, I'd sure like to see some of their algorithms get better for spam placement. I can't believe how much spam gets through to a couple of Gmail addresses I have. Now it goes to the spam folder, but this stuff shouldn't be getting through the pipeline at all. So yeah, I'm kind of asking where's AI? There's got to be some algorithm that could easily scan some of that and score it better and make better decisions. I think I'm going to venture to say, I'm going to put a stake in the ground and say, I am seeing less legitimate email get junked and hit the spam folder than I have even a couple years ago, even pre-pandemic or into, 2020. So I think, getting the legitimate email through the pipeline into the inbox is improving, but there's still, it's a mixed bag of a lot of absolute just garbage. It's not legitimate email. It's, who knows how it's even generated these days, that I think should be siphoned off early, in the deliverability funnel, and never even be visible in any folder.
We should do an episode where it would have to be a YouTube only episode where it's like, show me your spam folders, and we like screen share and go through it, which will be so good.
But I mean, at least we've got, again, like your tools, like, some of your competitors that are out there. I mentioned Audience Point, at least can tell brands, with pretty good reliability, hey, you're getting into the inbox or you're not. Like you're being blocked way upstream or you're getting there. And if you're getting there and you're not seeing opens and you're not seeing clicks from an email, you're not seeing human response, then are you ending up in a junk folder? Yeah, very likely. So at least we get the view to the inbox these days, and that's getting better. Now, how do we control, the placement? Boy, that means dealing with, again, the giants, right? The Apple and Microsoft, Google of the world, and hoping their algorithms get better.
I think from our conversations with them, they are hard at work on that one. So watch this space. Now, listen, in the last 25 minutes, we've talked literally about tons of different ways of using AI. Have you seen one in particular, one standout example of AI use recently where you've looked at it and thought, wow, that's seriously clever?
Specific to email, I have not, I will say. But the emerging space to watch is using AI and, again, collaborating and dialoguing with it and iterating with it and inputting data into it to come up with better test plans and test roadmaps to optimize results from email. And again, this discipline of, testing for better performance in direct marketing has been around since the channel and the discipline began. And yeah, we can do all the easy stuff like test subject lines. Again, we already have tools, language optimization tools that could do that. But, what about loading up into an AI tool the results of a past test, giving it some great information about audience segments, desired goals, outcomes, giving it the creative and saying, okay, design my next test for me, right? Give me my next 3 tests. Which should that be? Because, yeah, we can conceptualize it as humans, but we can't think of everything. And I think it can provide perspectives and angles that we can't.
As we wrap up this episode, Karen, we started with an icebreaker. We're going to close with a quick fire question. Now, obviously, if people haven't gotten this from listening to this episode, you are known for your strategic mindset and innovative approach. So what's the boldest move that you've made in your career? Something that maybe had your team raising their eyebrows at first, but then totally paid off in the end.
Oh my gosh. Boldest move I made in my career. I mean, probably starting self-employment, starting synchronicity marketing. Yeah. I mean, it has been 20 years now, which I can't believe. And I've stayed interested. I've stayed with the channel because we keep having evolution, right? There's continual innovation. AI is going to touch every part of our lives. It's going to touch email. It's going to touch marketing. It's going to touch just how we get anything done as humans, and how we work. And so I hope it will be a cause for good, but like so many things and just technology in general, how do we use it, right? Is it for good? Is it for evil? Is it, that we have to kind of muddle our way through and experiment to find out? So, but I do love, and I know this, I hope I answer your question about boldest move is, going out on my own. I do love Perplexity. And what we're already seeing, right, is people using an app like Perplexity. And this doesn't have anything to do specifically with email as an alternative to search engines. So I'm super curious as to what's going to happen with traditional search, because you go to something like Perplexity and you just get a question answered. It just gives you the actual result or solution to your problem, answer to your question, points you to a specific direction. You're not wading through 3 pages of paid results, you know, in a browser search engine like Bing or Google. So I don't know. I think we have a lot of change on the horizon, and we're all going to have to adapt, but use it for good. Use it for, to alleviate pain.
100%. And so interesting to hear you talking about perplexity. I think you are our second guest in the last 3 episodes that's referenced it. Clearly a coming technology that maybe we'll have to have an episode about it in sometime soon. So listen, Karen, as we said at the start of the episode, you're not an email after hours newbie. It's been great having you back with us again today. And once more, thank you for being so generous in terms of sharing your insights and bright thinking with us and our listeners. And for those listeners that are interested in connecting with you and perhaps learning a little bit more about your work, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Best ways, come to the website, synchronicitymarketing.com. And all the contact info is there, or, hit the contact page. But I do have an offer for all your listeners, because one thing that I think, again, I might be out of a job at some point, but AI is still not great at coming up with strategy. Again, because it's not great at that blue sky thinking. It's just good at taking what somebody else has already done and giving you ideas of what's been done. So I've come up with a process and blueprint to help email marketers put together program strategy. And that's available for free. I know you're going to have the link in the show notes.
And to our listeners, be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks' time. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget to visit senderscore.org. That's where all our previous episodes live, and loads more resources to help you become stronger senders.
And Guy and I are always seeking new people to feature on future episodes of the pod. So if you'd like to join us on an upcoming episode, drop a comment or ping us on LinkedIn, or simply fill out the guest form that's linked in the show notes. If you'd like to send an email marketing hot take to us or any of your questions, you can email us at emailafterhours@validity.com, or again, head to the link in the show notes and send us an audio message. I don't know if we've received one yet, but I'm banking they're going to be good after this one. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Be sure to tune in next time and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget to visit senderscore.com for loads more great resources to help you become a stronger sender.
To all you sleepless senders out there, thank you for joining us after hours, and see you next time.